Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Loadout. I last covered this game in 2012. That's how bloody long it's been in beta. A long, long time. And finally, it makes its way to Steam in its full-on free-to-play form. There were some rumors that it would be a game which involved paying up front, but no, that would not appear to be the case at all. What we have here is a free-to-play third-person multiplayer shooter from Edge of Reality, a company that has made really nothing of note up until Loadout. They seem to have gone somewhat down the route of the guys behind Warframe. And I say that because the stuff that they made previously was kind of awful. But you can't necessarily blame them for it, because most of it was licensed movie tie-in games. So we've got maybe a double helix situation here, where they made a bunch of tat because they had to pay the bills, and then they made the game they wanted to make. And that game appears to be Loadout. So, let's have a look at it, shall we? First things first, what's it all about? Well, it's about shooting things, as you might imagine. But before we check that out, let's have a look at the options menu. Yep, it is fairly well featured. It's got a quality slider, which I'm not personally a fan of, because that doesn't really mean anything. It's like, oh, medium, low, high, and what does that turn on? What does that turn off? I don't really know. You know, generally speaking, you should have those sliders and then something like a custom or advanced tab, which allows you to change a bunch of other options. You don't have that, which is kind of weird. Don't know why they wouldn't have that, but there you go. Full screen window. The game by default appears to run in borderless window, even though it says full screen, by the way. So if you do Alt-Tab, the game will still be there in the background. So it's worth considering that. Vertical sync option, show FPS, colorblind mode, good, and a field of view slider, which you wouldn't even necessarily expect from a third-person shooter, but they gave it to us anyway. Which makes me think, why the hell do a bunch of FPSs not have this if a third-person shooter made by perhaps a company that is most famous for their over-the-hedge PS2 video game can actually bring us this? I mean, come on, really? Controls, fully rebindable for the most part. Also, they let you change your double tap action, which is quite nice. So if you do want to change the key taps required in order to do dodging, yeah, you can definitely do that. You can turn toggle on and off for aim down sights, which is absolutely fantastic. Turn off camera acceleration and so on and so forth. There's your key bindings. You can set two different sets. They're by default bound to keyboard and mouse, and then on set 2 to your controller. So make your mind up, but you can set up alternates, which is very useful indeed. And dive roll, by the way, as you can see there, is an alternative to doing the whole double tap thing. Audio, that's a lot of sliders. They've even got a separate volume slider for the hit indicator, for God's sake. I mean, really, this audio menu puts most games to shame. The amount of customization that you have here is just absurd. In fact, I'm going to put the music up just a little bit. There you go. Why not? Might as well take advantage of those options. Yeah, so not too bad. I would have liked to see a better graphics options menu here, but aside from that, it's pretty good. Also, you may wish to disable nudity. I'm having to do that for YouTube because, well, that's one way to get your video flagged. So I'm going to turn that off. Warning, there are balls in this game. It is entirely possible for you to expose your cartoony testicles, your little danglies. Strange, really, that they'd even allow that. But this is a game that's banal, crass, and thoroughly crude, and it revels in it. So, show you what's going on. Why is it called Loadout? Well, the reason is that the game focuses on building your own guns. So let's do exactly that. I'm gonna throw away this gun here, and we're gonna build a gun from scratch. So here we go. This... oh, no, never mind. Let's try that again. This is a gun. It is. That's accurate. Okay, so, customization-wise, you've got a lot going for you here, and you can customize the look of the weapon through its parts. So, I could even randomize if I want. There we go, there's one. A rifle with a scatter barrel, iron sights, standard stock, high-capacity magazine, and it heals. So this is a healing shotgun, which is perhaps not as useful as you might think. Actually, I don't believe any of you really thought that was useful, did you? No. No. You were thinking through that just for a second there. I could hear the cogs whirring. It's like, hang on a minute, did he just... was that an insult? Or... yeah. So you've got a lot of customization there, and you can very clearly see that it changes the weapon depending on what you do. Some of this stuff is not available for certain weapons, as I think you can tell, and there are 4 main types of weapons upon which to build your gun. So there's rocket launcher, pulse gun, beam weapon. Simple as that. And then I could have a pulse gun that's a... uses Tesla rounds and happens to have skipping bouncy projectiles if I so desire. And then I could put a scatter barrel on it. This is a gun that probably won't work very well. I've got to point that out. But we can do it. We could even put shell loading on it, because it's kind of a shotgun, isn't it? And then we could put an X-ray scope that lets you see through walls. And we could make it a spooling weapon. Why the hell not? Now, that's going to cost me a lot of bloots, but you can test any weapon in the game in this range right here. So let's go and do just that. Now, by the way, if some of you happen to be getting a little bit of deja vu here, that's because I did do a video on the beta of this in 2012. Yeah. This weapon, by the way, is rubbish, and I do not recommend it to anybody. I have designed an utterly worthless gun. This is not going to help anybody whatsoever. The amount of damage it does is pathetically low. So, I guess you could use it as kind of a support weapon, but I have a feeling the game would require more players in order to even make that work with that amount of area of effect damage. Yeah, not a good gun. Not a good gun. We can mess around and certainly make it good, though. It's the scatter barrel that's kind of doing it, so if we go back in, we'll probably notice, I imagine at close range, that this is actually quite dangerous. And you'll, of course, notice that it is. But why would you want something that bounces around like that at close range? Well, you wouldn't. That wouldn't be any use, would it? So maybe we could change the barrel out for something else. Maybe we can change it for a sniper rifle barrel. Let's get a bit of a laser guidance homing system going on here with bouncy Tesla shells. Now, for some reason, you can't pick pyro. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's just that I think they just limit certain component combinations, possibly due to balance concerns. Alright, so as you will see here, I have homing bouncy Tesla gun things, which is kind of cool. And that will... These are quite amusing because you can fire a whole bunch of them and then actually use the laser designator to try and home them in, which is kind of comical, really. It's amusing. I don't know if I'd really want to put shells on it, but as you... Oh, wow, his head came off. Look at that. The amount of damage you can do to people is a little ridiculous, to say the least. There we go. And then just melee him a couple of times. Each of these actual ammunition types and all of the changes actually do make a difference to things like the amount of damage it does. So a shell-loading gun will do more damage, generally speaking, but it has lower rate of fire and a clip size of 11. So if I took a high-capacity magazine instead, went back into it, and then we'll see what ended up happening, it is still a sniper weapon, so it's not going to fire too quickly, as you might imagine, even though it's a spooling sniper weapon, which is a pretty stupid combination, but I do have a lot of ammo available there. If we wanted to make things really interesting, we'd change the barrel to Gatling, and then do the whole bouncy homey thing. Let's try that. Alright, this could be amusing. Now this is a silly weapon. There we go. It's a very, very silly weapon. I have a feeling that once the things are bouncing around, that they don't actually home after that. Oh, no, they do! They do! They just don't do it very well. Oh, wow. That's amusing, to say the least. So I think you get the idea. The game is called Loadout for a very good reason. It's focused on your loadout and your weapon customization, and it's pretty in-depth. Strangely enough, I've got to note that over the last, well, year and a half or so, they haven't really added all that much to this. They've added a bit, but not a huge amount. I would have perhaps expected a little bit more, but it seems like they've been focusing on other things. Now, in regards to your loadouts, we can definitely go without saving that. There we go. As you can see, you can hold 2 guns, an item, which you can unlock with the tech tree right here. A bunch of different items. I'm sticking with the hand grenades because, frankly, they're pretty good, but I would imagine that fire grenades are pretty good as well, so there's actually quite a lot going for it there. And you also have the ability to customize your character. One of 3 different characters are available. We'll customize Axel for a little while. Why don't... Yeah, let's do that. So you go to the outfitter, and you'll see exactly what we're doing with that. And you can make a custom outfit. However, pretty much all of this stuff is microtransaction based. I say microtransaction, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit more than that. That's the cost of the stuff here. 600 for 99 cents. 7,000 for 9.99. You'll notice that some of these items are relatively expensive. We're talking like $4, $5. Some of this stuff is more like $2, the American flag helmet, all that. But you can customize pretty much everything prior to buying it, but then you'll, of course, be given the bill for that. Large amount of fairly nice customization, some of which, frankly, I wouldn't recommend for fairly obvious reasons. Let's see if I can find something particularly unpleasant. I have a feeling that's actually been taken out as a result of me censoring the nudity. And that's probably for the best. So get me wrong, it's probably for the best. But yeah, the customization's pretty good. And this is how they've done their business model for the most part. You might ask, well, what's available in the store? Is it a decent free-to-play? Well, it's one of the most decent free-to-play you're ever going to find, really. They use a currency called Spacebucks, and that will allow you to unlock a few extra gun and loadout slots. You can unlock these over time, but you can get a few more if you so desire by buying them with Spacebucks. You can buy avatars, as you can see there. And really, outside of the boosts, that's about it. The currency that actually unlocks stuff is called Bloot, and the only thing you can do with Bloots is buy a 2x booster, and that's it. You cannot buy Bloots, it's impossible to do that. You can only accelerate the rate at which you acquire the Bloots. Also experience as well, same deal. Now, gaining experience levels will enable you to unlock additional loadout slots and gun slots and things like that, as I think you can quite clearly see. So, honestly, it's pretty fair as far as I'm concerned. You're paying for convenience and you're paying for customization. You're not paying for anything else. And that's quite impressive because, honestly, other games that do this weapon unlocking thing are entirely okay with selling you guns and parts. Plenty of them. And it surprises me that a game like this would be able to get away with not doing that. That's actually pretty impressive. This tech tree, as you'll notice right here, is also a place to spend your bloots, so we can unlock this right here if we so desire, and if we unlock through the tech tree, then that will also give us access to other stuff, like I can unlock the juice, which is a buff. I can unlock Tesla right here, all that kind of stuff. And you can unlock equipment, which might not be a terrible idea. A shield actually might be quite good. Yeah, let's unlock the shield and see how that works out. There's a bunch of different kinds of grenades available as well, even a disguise and all sorts of things like that. You know, I've got to notice, though, most people do use the hand grenade. It may be because they just don't know any better. The texture is kind of nestled away, and it's almost redundant to some degree, because if you go to loadouts, you'd think that you'd be able to buy that stuff under here, and you actually can't. Which is a little weird, because you can buy components through the actual weapon crafting menu. Like, if I want to make a Tesla beam, I can do that. Which is a little bit odd, actually, because I've actually already unlocked Tesla. I paid the requisite blooths in order to unlock that. And I also unlocked health as well, and yet it's now asking me to buy it again. Which is a bit weird. There's some strange redundancy going on there, honestly. It's really, really strange. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. The other possibility... Oh, I see. Okay. Alright. I've just realized. So you have to unlock the individual items for each gun type. So I don't have Tesla for rifles, but I do have Tesla for beams. Ah, okay. So now I see what's going on with that. Now, each of these can also be upgraded with experience. I think you can pay blooths to do it as well, or you can just level them up with XP, and they'll give a slight boost, a very slight boost. So level 2 Tesla was 2% extra damage and 1.67% extra arc range and things like that. So, not what I would call too excessive. If we go to weapon crafting here, you'll notice that if I select a gun, then all the parts actually have experience bars of their own, and they will slowly increase as you use that gun. But again, can't buy that, and blooths can't be bought, they can only be boosted. So overall, if you're looking for something that's really, really fair on the business model front, good luck finding something fairer than this. It's extremely fair. Ridiculously so. And I was very afraid when I did the original video that it wouldn't end up being that way. It turns out, you know what? They pulled it off. They actually really did. They made a game that is extremely fair when it comes to free-to-play. And the progression model is kind of what you would expect out of a full-price title, except it happens to be free. So, without further ado, let's go blow some stuff up, shall we? So, you've got a couple of different modes. Competitive actually has an exhibition game of the Annihilation game mode. We might try that in a moment. And then you've got Casual, which is a random assortment of easy-to-learn game types against players of a similar level. So, it does attempt to matchmake you with people that don't have a huge amount of unlocks and things like that. Although, to be fair, the default unlocks are pretty good. The way that they've balanced it, you might notice under weapon crafting here, you can multitask, which is kind of awesome as it pointed out there. If you watched my first video, you probably noticed, it looks like we're going straight into this, so never mind. You would have probably noticed in the first video that I criticized the game for having bars, and I actually recall reading some comments there. Someone a week ago was like, "Oh, I hate this guy. Ugh. You know, he complained about still like bars, and you know, how relevant is that? Talk about something that means something." Well, as it turns out, they actually took that criticism on board and decided, yeah, you know what? Bars is a terrible idea because no one really knows what they represent. So we're going to put some straight up numbers in there which indicate strengths and weaknesses, which means that you can absolutely customize your weapons with maximum information, which is absolutely fantastic. So screw that guy, har har har. Alright, so let's murder some fools. I have here a light assault pulse gun that uses physical ammunition, which is spiked balls for whatever reason. And they're damn effective. I like to use them in close range. I have an extended magazine on this thing, which lowers my damage somewhat, but it does let me spam a little bit more. I even have a bioscope on this thing, which gives me information about people's health, specifically the people nearby. You only really get information on the player's health when you do damage to them otherwise. So that's worth considering. There we go. This is going reasonably well. I need to find myself a health kit. What you will notice also is the fact that, one, I'm missing half my arm. The damage models are fairly visceral. I haven't seen damage models like that outside of the Wolverine game, which did holes in the chest fairly well. It's pretty cartoony and comical, to say the least, in that respect. Alright. Well, that didn't work too well, and I'm on fire and my leg fell off. Oh, there you go. An unfortunate situation for anyone's Wednesday night. Okay, let's murder some more fools. I've got a rocket launcher as my secondary weapon here, which is pretty much default, and it's actually a very, very powerful weapon, to the point where I've seen a lot of people stick with it, because it really does the job damage-wise. Extremely effective. You can unlock a bunch of stuff, but the default rocket launcher is really strong, and if you unlock other stuff for the rocket launcher, chances are you're actually going to weaken it. Picking up other things like, say, a ammo type and multiple launchers and things like that, well, they do weaken the overall shot. So they've done a pretty good job of balancing it. Although what I will say is right now in the game, the Tesla beam seems to be overpowered. And this is something that the devs have actually acknowledged themselves, and they're going to fix it. Mostly because it's very easy to aim, it does a lot of damage, it has an arc, it actually jumps to multiple people, and it has infinite range, which is a little silly, and in some matches you'll see a lot of Tesla beams and they might get a little bit frustrating, although I found my physical pulse gun to be just as effective, and in fact at close range is probably better at killing them than the Tesla beam is, so, you know, whatever works. Not so great at long range, but a pretty good spam weapon. Not a weapon that requires a huge amount of skill, I've got to say. Let's talk about the actual skill ceiling of the game. So, what can you do? Well, you can explode and lose your leg in a comical fashion. But what you can also do is jump, you can do dodge rolls, sort of try to demonstrate that earlier. If you press the control button, you will dodge in a particular direction. You can also double tap on real tournament style in order to do that dodge if you wish. And you can jump a lot. And you can sprint. Now, sprint will actually zoom you in a bit. It will narrow your field of view, and I assume that's done for balancing reasons, because you can actually shoot while you sprint, although it will have some impact on your accuracy. Not a huge amount, though. A lot of the weapons in this game are pretty spammy, so it is to be expected. You will end up throwing a lot of lead in one person's general direction, and they may very well end up dying horribly. Or they might not. There are sniper weapons and things like that, but some of the more popular weapons are the pulse guns, the beam guns, and just general slug-throwing rifles that use regular ammunition. It may just be that I'm being matched with people that don't have that many choices right now, and I'll see some more exotic things later on down the line, but there you go. So after each match, you are given bloots, you are given experience. Every time you hit a new level, you get 2,000 bloots, and every day you get a chest, which can contain either cosmetic items or bonus bloots as well. And you'll notice that my weapons tech has increased increased slightly in experience, so I'll eventually get a very, very small boost. A very small boost. Which is quite nice, because, yeah, if you play for ages and ages, yeah, you're going to have, what, level 3 weapons, but even if you get that, you're getting maybe 4 or 5% extra damage at most. So they're giving a tiny bit of progression, but not completely overdoing it. Now, I was talking about what you can do in-game, and this is sort of one of the minor problems that I actually have with it. And I have a feeling that it could hurt it competitively, assuming they have any aspirations to do competitive gaming with this, and maybe lower the skill ceiling somewhat. The fact that, aside from just shooting a lot, and of course aiming, you can't really do much. You know, the dodges will stop you from shooting, so you can spam that a lot, and you can also jump a lot, but it seems like jumping doesn't really affect your accuracy all that much, so people jump around a lot. Now, this does actually seem to be a deliberate design decision from them, but I have to wonder if it's a good idea, more to the point. As there's a lot of jumping around, a lot of bouncing around. People tend to get very close range to each other and just sort of spam their weapons in a general direction. I think maybe it's just because I am at a fairly low level and I'm facing people that don't really know what they're doing, and perhaps that'll fix itself as we go along, but I have a feeling that jumping might need a slight restriction. And it's also a little bit weird, because it seems like they tried to create an arcade-style game, and yet they didn't put something like, say, rocket jump in the game, which is odd, to say the least. I mean, you've got rocket launchers. Chances are you would probably do fairly well with a rocket jump ability. Oh, this is amusing, by the way. They have you just kill each other at the start to get some bonus kills for no apparent reason whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, this, you know, the idea of strafe jumping and maybe wall running and doing all sorts of crazy stuff doesn't seem to be a thing. So, I'm a little concerned about that. I mean, I'm having fun with it now, but will I be in, say, 20 hours down the line? Because the focus of the title seems to be it's almost like it's a meta-focus. The idea of the creation of the guns is perhaps even more important than shooting the bloody things in the first place. Which I can kind of understand. I mean, we are in the age of the loadout, after all, and I say that quite literally and for good reason, because we are in an age of shooters having those progression models, and there being just such a large focus in general on the progression model that it's almost become more important than playing the actual sodding game in the first place. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. That's certainly a possibility. Aside from that, though, the guns are fairly fun to use. They don't have a huge amount of kick to them by any stretch, but they do feel suitably arcadey. You can put a lot of lead downrange very quickly, which is extremely pleasant. Also, my leg came off. It's incredibly satisfying to kill people in this game because you tend to die in the most comically ridiculous and gory ways. Legs come off, head comes off with eyeballs kind of sticking out of it. If I kill someone with this gun with a headshot, what will happen is that their head will be replaced by a giant spiky ball and they will just collapse, which is kind of hilarious. Gross, certainly, but extremely funny. So, you know, can't really blame me for liking that. So I think that they can get away with the lack of response time because the lack of recoil, because it is a game that is focused on a lot of movement, a huge amount of it, and firing a lot of bullets. You know, precision, not so important in a game like this. That's all. And you know what? That's actually okay, because a lot of other games do precision, and they do it fairly well, so, you know, let them do precision. It's fine. This is all about arcade action and bouncing around like an idiot. Now, the game mode that I'm playing right here is Extraction. In this mode, a random player on your team will be assigned as the collector. He has to collect plutonium and put it into the plutonium collector. Once you get a certain amount, you win. You can also use plutonium as a weapon, by the way. You can throw it at people, hit them with it, and it will explode, but it will probably kill you as well. And collectors are assigned randomly. And it's a fairly interesting game mode, although I do have a minor problem with it. The fact that I always seem to get assigned the collector when I'm in the middle of combat and on 10 HP, which is not useful at all. Now, of course, you want to try and kill the enemy collector so that they can't collect any more plutonium, and they are the only person on the team that can. But my experience with it is that it assigns it at random, and it really doesn't pay any attention whatsoever to the situation that you happen to be in. And that could be very unfortunate. I think it would be good if they didn't assign you a plutonium collector position if you had, like, say, less than 10 HP or whatever, or if you're in the middle of a rocket fight, yeah? So it's just something to consider. Maybe it's not a good idea to give that person... Oh, no! Also, why would you do that? Quite a few of the levels have the ability to fall into a bottomless pit, and they, well, They're put in rather awkward positions. I really wish they wouldn't design maps like that, but that's maybe just personal preference from dying too much from it. There's a couple of other game modes as well. When I first showed you this game, I showed you the hammer game mode. That's still in the game, and it's still very compelling. The ability to... It's capture the flag with a hammer that you can actually hit people with, which is as hilarious as it sounds. And you actually gain more value to the hammer the more people you kill with it. So by the time you finally cash it in, you get more points. So it's a pretty fantastic spin on a classic concept. You also have a kill confirmed kind of mode, which pretty much just does what kill confirm does, and a couple of other things like blitz, and of course the big annihilation mode. So there's a decent variety there, although when it comes to these game modes, they're all 4v4, which might be perhaps not as many as you would hope. For me, the main problem with it is not the number. I'm actually okay with 4v4 gameplay. I quite like the ability to really make a difference on a small team. But the main problem I think that there is to be had with that is the fact that if someone ends up logging out in the middle of a game, you end up being 3-on-4, which is actually a fairly huge disadvantage. So that's certainly something to consider there. It's perhaps not the best number, because when someone does DC, your team could just actually lose before another person gets in. Thankfully, the game right now is really active, so usually people will join fairly quickly if you lose a player, but it can be a problem. There's no real question about that. Oh, did I get him? I did. Can I actually save myself from this guy? Defensive grenade. Oh, I'm still alive. Incredible. Oh, some guy actually has a healing gun there. I should probably let him heal me. You can overheal with those, by the way, which makes them very, very useful indeed. You also get a crap ton of points for healing people. And buffing, of course, with the juice weapon, so... well worth it. Absolutely well worth doing, and I'd suggest that you get a healing gun fairly quickly. The healing beam seems to work pretty well. You can do healing rocket launchers, which is pretty hilarious. I'm on a 7-kill streak here. I'm a beast. However, this is not actually helping me in any way because I'm not playing the objective, so let's go play the objective. There we go. So let's... I am actually the collector now, so I'm going to grab some plutonium. And we need to play a bit of catch-up, so I'm going to be credit to team here. Do exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, which is not killing people. There we go. We need some more captures. Oh dear, come on. I'm collecting as quick as I can here. And I'm taking fire as well, which is even worse. These guys are not happy to see me. Okay, there's some more plutonium. I'm hoping that my guys actually go and stop them. Because if we don't, then we're in a crap ton of trouble. Okay, close plutonium's right there. We're catching up, we're catching up. Stop them, please. I can only grab so quickly. Okay, let's go. 2 captures, come on. Need some more plutonium to spawn nearby. Oh, Christ. Massive fire coming in our general direction. Oh. Oh, well, I tried to be credit to team. It wasn't quite enough. Good KD, good collections, good captures, but defeat nonetheless. Do I like this game? Damn right I do. I absolutely love it, in fact. I have stated that I'm a little bit concerned about the skill ceiling later down the line, but right now I'm having a blast with it. It's funny in its own crude way. You get to see the names of people's weapons as they lie on the ground. You can grab them, which is a nice little balancer, by the way. If you see someone killing people that has what you think is a really good gun, and they die, you can pick it up off the ground and use it, which is a nice little equalizer. But what I really like is just the attention to detail in the damage modeling and the hilarious kills. It's perhaps been a long time since we've had a game where you could just blow people into tiny little pieces in multiplayer. Good old Quake Jib style. Very good way of doing things. It's generally hilarious. The graphic style is unique. You know, it's a unique aesthetic. Some people say it looks a little bit like TF2. I disagree. I don't think so. It certainly looks cartoony, and they use a lot of those nice bright flat colors, but I think it's got a style of its own. In particular, the blood gushing and the actual damage has a very interesting sheen to it. Like that a lot. There's a good variety in level design and aesthetic as well, so I very much appreciate that. As you can see here, this one seems to be in some alien world. This is a trailer park at night with a bunch of neon and nice colors. It looks good. It looks very, very good. It looks premium. And everything about the game oozes premium. They completely redid the UI here. They made everything available for multitasking, so if I want to swap out things in my loadout, I can actually do that while things are counting down. I can unlock slots, I can buy stuff. Oh, it's all fantastic. I just absolutely love what they've done with the place. Now, this product oozes polish. It oozes fairness. And I think as a result, it is getting a hell of a lot of attention and a ridiculous amount of success. I have a feeling that unless they really start to add new parts and really add new types of guns into the game, that people may get a little bored with the gimmick of designing your own weapon, especially considering a lot of players seem to just kind of be using the same thing right now. It may just be that there needs to be greater variety and better balance, because right now it seems like the weapon of choice is the Tesla beam, because it just does the best in pretty much every situation. Alright, here's where things get funny. Ah! Oh, and then I fell to my death. Never mind. But I got experience! I think I killed myself in the process. Blitz the point and raise the boxes. Alright, here we go. So, a little bit of a capture point mode, attack defense, sort of pull-push, tug-of-war kind of thing going on there. There's not many reasons that I can come up with not to try Loadout, because it is free. There's blatantly no pay-to-win in this of any description. Anyone that tells you otherwise is just a horrible, horrible liar. And they're pretty much out of their minds if they think this game is pay-to-win. It's really difficult to get a... It's less pay-to-win than Team Fortress 2, yeah? And that's a game that has been held up on a pedestal as the way to do free-to-play. This game is less pay-to-win than that. So, you know, please tell me how this is pay-to-win in any way. It's extremely fair. It's a hell of a lot of fun. It's got a great variety of game modes and maps, although some of the map design is a little questionable, to say the least, when it comes to falling down bottomless pits and things like that. It can certainly get a little bit annoying. And it's got that sense of humor going for it. You know, perhaps you might find it puerile, and I kind of find it puerile, but it's nice to indulge in puerile every once in a while. Why not? Loadout is fantastic. The guys at Edge of Reality should be absolutely proud of what they've done with Loadout, and you should try it, because it's free, and you'd be an idiot not to. It's brilliant. If I have one slight complaint in regards to its technical aspects of it, is there seems to be a few too many mutual kills, and that does indicate a potential problem with the netcode and lag compensation. It may just be that a lot of the guns are projectile weapons and actually have a travel time, and, you know, there's a lot of rockets going around the place, so mutual kills are entirely possible. But it's also possible that they're overdoing the lag compensation a little bit, and they maybe have to even that out and trim it, because I do tend to find that I kill someone only to die to them in return. And I understand if I've been set on fire that would happen, but it's just me fighting another guy with regular bullets and we both kill each other for the umpteenth time. It's, at that point you're thinking, really? I mean, did that actually happen, or is there something funky going on with the netcode there? But yeah, it's a minor complaint. It doesn't really happen enough to even bother me all that much, honestly. I'm just sort of complaining for the sake of it now. Loadout is fantastic. You should be trying it. Absolutely. It's got a really healthy player base right now. It's actually one of the most popular games on Steam, and it deserves it. Yeah, the devs have done a great thing here. They absolutely deserve the success, and I hope their model works out for them, you know? Some devs have got screwed hard by being overly fair with their free-to-play model. I hope that these guys are not one of them. Give it a try, folks. Loadout is available for free on Steam. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.